So this is Aryeh Citron. This is a short synopsis of page Peidalid of Chomesh Bamidbar Likkutei Torah, a continuation of the line where Ishaki Sidra Neder. The Alter Rebbe explains that there are three levels of love to Hashem, and they can be compared to the level of love of a son to a parent, a child to a parent, the love of a betrothed woman, and the love of a married woman to her husband. So a child has a love for the father, but it's not an intense love. The parent gets pleasure from the relationship, but it's not like they're really yearning for each other in the same way that a man and a woman have experienced that yearning. And this represents the person who feels a love for Hashem, knows that it's in their neshama, but has distractions. They have not yet conquered the animal inclination, so they're struggling with this love. And it's like Avas Noraich, the love of a youth who is still in the desert following Hashem, is going after Hashem. It's not really internalized yet. And that's all level of love number one. Level of love number two is the level of the relationship of a husband and a wife, a man and a woman, where there's an intense love, a yearning for each other. And the one is a level of a betrothed woman, where they're not fully unified yet. And that is compared to doidim, lovers, where their love still has some ups and downs. And then the highest level love is the aspect of a couple that is already married. And at that time, it's reim, it's like friends, meaning to say the love is constant, it does not have ups and downs. And the level of love that has to do with a husband and a wife is engendered through the Torah. The relationship that we have with Hashem through the Torah achieves that level of love that is like a husband and a wife. Because through the Torah, we bring Hashem into ourselves in a way it's compared to the idea of the husband and the wife, the intimacy, becoming one together, being able to create a child in terms of becoming one through that. So the Torah goes into us and we become one with the Torah and one with Hashem through that. And that enables us to achieve a love for Hashem that is not distracted by our physical desires. In other words, it helps us achieve the level of ishapla, of transforming those desires to positivity. And this relates to the section in the Torah about vows. There are three levels of vows, of people in terms of vows. There is a woman who is in her father's house, there's a woman who's betrothed, and there's a woman who is married. The woman in the father's house is a woman who represents a person who is not yet in the highest level of love for Hashem. Like the love of a child to a parent, which we described earlier, is lacking. That sort of person still perhaps needs to make vows because it represents a person who has attraction to physical pleasure, and therefore the physical pleasures can bring them down. And therefore they may need to make a vow to separate themselves from those pleasures. How do they get out of the vow? The father can annul it, meaning to say when there's a revelation of Hashem within that person, and that's especially happening on Shabbos, which is a revelation of the Chachma, which is the Nefesh, the Neshama Yisrael, so the Neshama of Shabbos, that helps the person overcome the evil within them, and therefore they achieve a level where they don't need the oath anymore. A betrothed woman needs both the husband and the father to annul the vow. The father represents davening, love and fear that is achieved through davening, and the husband represents the Torah. How does a person overcome the need to make a vow? Through both davening and Torah is how they overcome their evil inclination to the extent that they don't have to make a vow anymore because they've mastered over their negative tendencies. In the future time, it's going to be compared to the full relationship of a husband and a wife. We're going to be unified with Hashem like a husband and wife are unified, which is described in Bereshis, that Adam and Chava were not clothed when they were together. That represents the full revelation of Hashem within the Torah. The Torah is not going to be concealed in physical discussions. It's going to be the internal aspect of the Torah is going to be revealed to our internal selves. At that time, it's going to be like a full unification, a nisuin, a fully married couple. And at that time, it's only baila. Only the husband will have to annul the vow. Meaning to say, learning Torah will be enough for us to achieve this full unification. May it happen speedily in our days.